So hello everybody, and today we're going to be building this little scene right here with our new fluid characters. I'm so super excited about these fluid characters because they just give me joy to work with them. Their colors are beautiful, they are super conversational, and there's a lot of fun things that can be done. So reaching back just a little while ago, we did a blog post on graphic design trends for 2020 that could or might be helpful to e-learning developers. And one of the items that was on that list was that it is a current trend to add charm to websites and design pieces and that sort of thing using these little character illustrations. So here's a selection that I grabbed from around the web. And you can see that they often vary in terms of style and, how silly they are or how serious they are. But if you start looking as you trawl around the web for just about anything these days, you're going to see lots and lots of these treatments everywhere you go. So we said, hey, they're all over the web. Why aren't they in e-learning too? And immediately Brian jumped on it and got our illustrator going on developing this group of 8 characters that are kind of curvy, like they have sort of looser, more liquid body poses, which is why we name them fluid. And they're kind of hipsters, they're a little younger, they are a little bit sort of trendy looking. So we have 4 women and 4 men, Ava, Kat, Jay, and Zoe, and Ash, Kim, Jed, and Zach. And right now we have them in 3 different outfit sets. They're available in their business casual look, they're available in a lab coat, and they're also available in scrubs. Now, the scrub sets are in different colors, so it's a very fun group when they're all in scrubs as well, because they are kind of these pretty colors together. Speaking of outfit colors, because they're SVG, a simple ungrouping and then ungrouping again, which is typical for SVG, you have to do it twice, um, changes all of the component parts of the character into shapes, which means that you can do anything that you would do with any PowerPoint shape, you can now do with these characters. So that means that you can, this is the basic set here, you can change it to the corporate colors so that you could have characters that matched your corporate style guide exactly. You can just simply click on the SVG and then change it to a silhouette color. That's kind of just a super quick treatment down here in number 3. And then if you download the characters as PNGs instead of SVGs, you can easily apply a grayscale color change, do all the characters in a grayscale, and do maybe have some spot colors or accent colors that you introduce in other ways in your program. So really, literally, any of these is going to look really, really sharp across a selection of slides. So for today's build, we're going to actually use the characters pretty much as is. I could have downloaded them as PNGs, but I chose to download them as SVGs because, I don't know, I just kind of love that feature. And I know that if I wanted to change something, I could change it just by ungrouping. So we have 7 of the 8 characters here. 4 SVG icons, and you'll see the beauty of that in just a moment, and a couple really simple PowerPoint shapes. So let's go ahead and get started on building. See if I can get back to my, okay, here we are. Now, the original version of this was purposefully built on a 16:9 slide. The reason being is that 16:9 is, it gives a slightly more modern look than our usual 4:3. And I wanted to get that kind of big, wide effect of having the characters spread across a wide zone. So what I've done here, even though this is a 4-3 deck, is I've put this gray box in under here, colored it to be the same as the background. So you can just forget all about the fact that there's a little bit more slide down there, and we're just going to build in this white area. I've also added a little color bar, which reminds me a lot of painting with watercolors when I was a kid. We'd always make such a mess of those pans of watercolor, but this is going to stay neat because where I originally built this, the theme colors were different than in this deck. So rather than fight with that, I'm just going to go ahead and sip off of these colors when I need them. So let's go ahead and get started with the build. First, I'm going to go back and grab these 4 icons. And I'm just going to paste them. I'll paste them down here in my pseudo zone here. And the very first one that's going to go on the screen, because it's all the way in the back, is this Earth icon. And it gets fairly large and rotates a bit, so some more of the Earth will show behind the laptop. That one is going to get a fill that I'm going to eyedropper from this green. Alrighty. Now the next thing is you cannot have a hipster modern looking thing if you don't have foliage. Okay, so we're going to use this feather icon as our foliage. I'm just roughing its location right at the moment because it's going to be determined by the laptop to some degree where it will actually sit. And you may notice that there's actually 2 colors of green going on there. On this one that's upper right is this same dark green. So I can just click here and it will fill. That's because these are SVGs that they're so easy to fill. You just simply select it, change the color, and PowerPoint doesn't give you any trouble with that at all. Now there's another one of these in that dark color there. So I'm going to go Control D and come up to Graphics, rotate, flip horizontal, and bring it over here. It'll need a slight rotation, maybe not quite that far, because it's down on the bottom. Now this looks kind of ugly as I'm building it, so bear with me here. Now the next thing is I'm going to click Control and just pull down another one, but this one gets a fill of the bright green that's just under standard colors. I'll roll that one, so they're kind of hanging out together, and do the same thing here. This time I did Control D. That's really 6 of one and a half dozen of the other, which of those duplicating methods you use. All right, so looks like those are more or less in place. So the next thing to bring up is the laptop. That's kind of neat effect, something one could play with, but for the moment, we'll do this instead. We'll bring it to the front, and I'm going to give it a fill of that beige that's down at the bottom here. All right. Now, one of these shapes here, this one with the rounded corners, is actually to fill in that screen. Now, I hope some creative gears are turning out there because that would be a pretty neat effect like that. One could play around quite a bit with using a transparent screen like that, but then having some things in the background. I just now noticed that, so something to think about for the future. I'm going to go ahead and bring the laptop forward again. And now that screen is covered. Next item, I'm going to bring up the sales chart. While it's still selected, I'm going to bring it to the front. And that one's also getting the dark green fill. Bring that a little bigger. Kind of center it up to the... All right. So I would say our background is pretty much built. And here's where our other PowerPoint shape comes in handy. This is actually just a white with a fill. I put a border on it so we could see it. I paste it here. And just a second, I'll give you the specs on that. The idea here is just to tone this background down by quite a lot. And I think that's the easiest way to do it rather than making transparencies and having to worry about things showing through to each other. I'll just put this big fader box over it. So the shape it's filled with white. I'm going to remove the outline and let's give a check to see what kind of transparency it has on it. A 45% transparency to get that effect. Alrighty, so now we're ready for our characters. I'm just going to go ahead and move this so I can select them all, which is not the easiest thing. It looks like I got it and didn't get anything else. Control C and pop those onto the slide. Now, as I said a little bit earlier, one thing that I really like about these characters is how social they are. Something about their body positions and the kinds of approaches that they take, and maybe the fact that they actually don't have a face, but they still manage to convey interest through their body language. Somehow to me, that really all communicates as a really social set of characters. So that's neat. That's a nice thing and something that we're often trying to show in e-learning. Now, I'm just looking over here at the left to get these positioned where they should be. And I can see, whoops, I caught the wrong one here. I need him. I'm going to rotate him. So a lot of these have been flipped and rotated and adjusted. We see his hand, so let's go ahead and move him back a little bit. He's standing quite up a lot near the laptop, so maybe make him a little bit smaller. Now, my size right now is set to lock the ratio. Come over here, we go to size, this one, lock aspect ratio. That's why I was able to click just height and make it a little smaller and maintain the aspect. In other words, not make him wider and shorter. So that's just something to keep in mind. If you start seeing, if you try a trick like that and your character starts to get wide unexpectedly, check to see if you have your lock aspect ratio selected. Alrighty, so now we have, move her over here. Oh, caught him by mistake. She's over here. And this one is pointing to the screen. Alrighty. Now you see how there's a little white. Let me zoom in just a little bit. Something I'm watching out for as I'm setting these characters is to avoid little things like that. It's kind of a, I don't know, obsession maybe, but it will help your viewer to not get distracted if you can avoid those little tiny, I don't know, the word that I use in my mind is nicks, and I don't know why I use that word, but that's how I describe it to myself. So keep an eye out for that kind of thing. Sort of look at how the character is interacting with the graphics. Now, I purposefully have this one set. Let's go back so you can see this. I purposely have her set so that her hand is at the bottom of the arrow. Since where this slide theoretically is on sales, I want her to look like she's kind of dynamically affecting sales with her hand. This one is actually turned. I'm going to close this so we can better see our sample. Okay, she's rotated and pulled back a little bit. And I believe she's a little smaller. All right, perfect. And let's get, this one is flipped horizontal. He's explaining something to her. And we'll flip her horizontal. Now, keeping an eye on where his hand is, it's nice if the hand, if the other character's hand is um, contrasting, so it's hovering over something that contrasts, and at the same time, how can I say it, is not feeling her up. So, little things you want to just keep an eye out because people viewing, if you're on this slide for a few minutes, doing the content for the slide, people are going to be looking around and seeing stuff. So you want to anticipate what they might be seeing. All right, and actually, that one is our built slide. So that was all really, really easy. I hope you enjoyed learning more about the fluid characters, and I just can't wait to see the projects that you guys use the fluid characters in. Go to town.